It all starts with a single note, which on its own isn't music, but if you start playing it with a pulse or a rhythm, we're getting a bit closer here. Now if the pitch, which is how high or low it sounds, goes up or down, we get different notes. Play these different notes with rhythm, you get a melody. Or if you were to play them all at the same time, you get a chord. And it's these three components that make up the base elements of music. The melody is the single note line, it's the tune, it's the thing that the singer would sing. The chords make up what we call the harmony, and the rhythm is the pulse that this is set to as it unveils itself over time. Now between two notes there's a distance in their pitch. This note is a little bit lower than this one is much higher than this one. The space between two notes is called an interval, and the smallest spacing that we'll concern ourselves with is called the half step. The distance between these two notes is a half step, and we symbolize it with this marking. On a guitar, when you go from one fret to the one beside it, same string, either up or down, that's the distance of a half step. On piano, when you go from one key to the key directly beside it, that's a half step. Sometimes the half step takes you to a black key, sometimes it takes you to a white key. And as far as we're concerned, the half step is the smallest musical interval. Next is unlocking scales. So check out this Black Friday deal. When you sign up for my weekly lessons in the Samurai Guitar Dojo, you're not only going to get in for half off, $7.50 a month, but you're also going to gain access to all of my other courses free with your monthly subscription. Every week in the dojo, we do a lesson on a single topic, and the idea is this is the kind of stuff that you can get under your fingers with 15 to 30 minutes of work 4 to 5 times a week. When you sign up, you gain access to the entire back catalog, and the stuff that I teach here is the stuff that helps you elevate your playing from the intermediate to the advanced level. Now, I also have a number of full professionally animated courses on stuff like where you go next with this music theory stuff, soloing, rhythm guitar, there's a whole bunch there. For Black Friday, you're going to gain access to all of this for $7.50 a month. Hit that link in the description. I'd love to see you there. So here's the thing. If I pick up a guitar and I have no idea how music works, there are so many places that I could put my fingers. The options are overwhelming. Where do you even start? Well, it's a major scale that begins to narrow these options down. And most of us first learn this as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There are 7 different notes. The 8th note, the second do, is the same note as the first do, but it's an octave higher, which means it sounds the same, it's just higher in pitch. Now, the easiest place to find this on the guitar is starting on the 3rd fret of the A string, and we're going to keep everything on one string for now for simplicity's sake. And it's also important to point out that we give our musical notes names. These names correspond with the letters of the alphabet from A to G. If I go back to my 3rd fret on the A string, that musical note is called a C. And I get a major scale if I first play that C, then play the 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret, 14th fret, 15th fret. And if we refer to these notes as the names from the musical alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And on the piano, it's all the white notes from C to C. And so what we've done here is we played a major scale starting on a C note, ending on a C note, and that's called a C major scale. And the easiest way to start creating musical ideas or melodies is take a scale like this one and start mixing around the notes from it. And since all these notes are coming from the same place, the C major scale, or what we refer to as the key of C, we hear order within them when they're playing close to each other. Listen to how it sounds as I jump around to different notes that all come from this place. Whereas if I jump around to unrelated notes, it sounds like random chaos. The major scale is one of the base elements of music. We build our entire system relating everything back to it. So it's important to thoroughly analyze it and understand it. So we've got our C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Let's look at the musical spacing between each one of these notes, and remember from one fret to the next is a half step. When we go from our C to our D, we're going up 2 frets. That's 2 half steps. We can call that a whole step. From C to D, that's up 2 frets. That's a whole step. From D to E, also 2 frets, also a whole step. But from E to F, that's up 1 fret, so that's a half step. F to G, whole step. G to A, whole step. A to B, whole step. B to C, that's a half step. And if we look at a C major scale on a piano, it's especially easy to visualize this. So if 2 white notes have a black note between them, they're a whole step apart. If they don't have a black note, they're a half step apart. And so we've just unlocked the first big piece of this music theory puzzle. The spacing in a C major scale is whole step, half step, whole step, half step. This series of whole steps and half steps is actually universal to all major scales. If I start on any note and follow that set of spaces, I'm going to get a major scale. So why don't we try this starting on an F, and we'll use a piano to visualize this one. So we got our F, then we need to go up a whole step. We go to the G, perfect. Then we go up another whole step to the A, it's all working. And then we need a half step. We've run into a problem here. From the white key A to the white key B, that's a whole step, and we need a half step. So what we do is instead of hitting that white button, the B, we go back to the black note between the A and the B. This note is a lowered version of B, so we call it a B flat. And in doing so, it gives us the half step that we need for that major scale pattern. And having made that modification, the rest of the notes all follow the pattern. Let's try another example using the guitar this time. We'll start on the G on the low E string, which is the 3rd fret. We go up a whole step to the A. And why don't we play the open A here? Same note, different place. So we have G, whole step to the open A, whole step to the B, half step to the C. Everything's working great so far. Whole step to the D, whole step to the E. But if I go up to the F, that's a half step, and I need a whole step here. So instead of playing the F, I play the note that's a half step higher, 1 fret, the F sharp. So now I have between my E, F sharp, whole step, F sharp to G, half step, and that all fulfills my major scale formula. And playing things horizontally like this, it's a little bit clunky on guitar. What if we played it more vertically and I jumped up to the next string every time I could? I would get this. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And I could keep on going up the neck. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So the first thing you do when you're creating music is you narrow down which notes you're going to be using by picking a scale to draw them from. If I'm composing, I pick a scale to start. If I'm jamming with someone else, we agree that we're going to be all drawing notes from a certain scale. I mean, watch as I come up with something using only notes from that G scale that we just worked out. Now, there are 12 different notes that we can build a major scale off of. And it'd be a lot to think about if every time I went to play music, I picked my note to make my major scale off of, and then had to analyze the whole steps and the half steps to figure out which notes are available to me. There's a big shortcut here, and that's what we're looking at next. How to spell any major scale. What you're seeing here is called the circle of fourths. And around this circle, we have all 12 different notes and potential keys. And we can use this to figure out what scales have what notes. Remember, C is the neutral key. It has no sharps or flats, but every scale on this side of the circle will have flat notes added to it, and every note on this side of the circle we will add sharp notes. So the D major scale, for example, has sharp notes in it. A flat major has flats. And to figure out how many notes are sharp or flat in a scale, we count how far away we are from the neutral key C. So A, for example, which is on the sharp side of the circle, is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from C. It will have 3 sharps in it. D flat on the flat side of the circle, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away from C, will have 5 flats in it. And then to figure out which notes are sharp or which notes are flat, we have 2 nonsense sayings that help us remember this. For sharp notes, we use Father Charles goes down and ends battle. If you need 1 sharp in a scale, you take the first word, father, and take the first letter, F. That's the note that needs to be sharp. F sharp. If you need 2 sharp notes in a scale, you take the first 2 words, Father Charles. The first 2 letters of those 2 words are the sharp notes. So you would have an F sharp and a C sharp. 3 sharps, Father Charles goes, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and so on. For flats, we're going to be doing the same thing here, but we have a new phrase which goes battle ends and down goes Charles' father. If you needed 4 flats, you take those first 4 words, battle ends and down, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat, and those would be the flat notes in your scale. So let's do an example here. We're going to pick a key and figure out what notes are in it from top to bottom. How about, I don't know, E major. So first I see that E is on the left side of the circle, so I'll be adding sharps. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away from C, so I'll be adding 4 sharps. The first 4 words of my sharp saying are Father Charles goes down, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. So in order to play an E major scale, I would make those notes sharp. Let's see if it works. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, back to E. And with this information, you can now spell any major scale. Now, when you listen to a major scale, it has an inherent joy and happiness to it. But music's definitely not always happy. You sometimes hear a sad, dark character, and this is called minor. And when you listen to this set of notes, it has that melancholy built into it. That is the minor scale. Let's start breaking it down. We'll keep things all on the A string. And to get the minor scale, we go open A, B, C, D, D, A. And on the piano, it's all the way keys from an A to an A. And when we go and analyze our spacings, we see that from the first to second note, we have a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, half step, whole step, and then a whole step. If you start on any note and play this set of spacings, you get a minor scale. And if we look at the notes from the C major scale and the notes from the A minor scale, we'll see that it's actually all the same notes, just organized slightly differently. There must be some relation between these two, right? The C major scale is the relative major to A minor, and the A minor scale is the relative minor to C major. Every major scale has a relative minor with the same set of notes and vice versa. As you can see, I've laid them all out now on the circle of fourths. You can take any major scale, start it on the 6th note, play it to the 6th note an octave higher, and you've got its relative minor. And now you know how to spell any minor scale. Next up in unlocking the mysteries of music is playing multiple notes at the same time, or playing chords. To start looking at this, we're going to bring back our nice neutral scale, C major. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pick any note from the scale to be the lowest note in our chord. It's the note that we're going to build things off of. We call this the root note. We'll start with the C. And what we're going to do is we're going to skip over the next note in the scale, the D, then go up to the E, and we're going to play this E alongside our root note C. Now, on guitar, I have a bit of a problem because I can't play these two notes at the same time since they're on the same string. So what I'll do is I'm going to take this E note, play it here, and when I play these two notes together, I get this sound. So to this point, we have the root note C, and then this next note that we've added to the chord, the third note in the scale, is called the third. These are two pieces of a chord. They are the root and the third. But we're going to keep adding here, and to do so, we continue up the scale in the same way. So we were at the E, skip over the next note in the scale, the F, and then take the next note, the G, and add that to our root and our third. So now we have C, E, and now G. And now we have three notes in our chord. We have the C root note, we have the E, which is the third, and the G, which we call the fifth. Root, third, fifth. And these three notes make up what's called a major triad. Let's do some analysis here. From our C root to the third E, we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4 frets, 4 half steps, which is 2 whole steps, and we call this spacing of 2 whole steps a major third. So from the root to the third is the musical interval of a major third. From the third of our chord E to the fifth G, we're going up 1, 2, 3 frets, 3 half steps. 3 halves makes 1.5 whole steps. That spacing is called a minor third. And so when the spacing from the root to the third is a major third, and from the third to the fifth is a minor third, that gives us a major triad. And it's called major because it has that happy tonality, and it's called a triad because it has 3 different notes in it. Now let's try the same thing off of the next note in our scale, the D. That becomes the root note. We skip the following note in the scale, the E, add the next one, F. So the F becomes the third. We have a D and an F. Go back to the F, skip over the next note in the scale, which is the G, and then add the A to the chord. So now we have the D, the F, and the A. Now already we can tell that this chord sounds quite a bit different, and that's because this is a minor triad. Let's take a closer look at it. From the D to the F, we're going up 3 frets, so that is a minor third spacing here. And from the F to the A, we're going up 4 frets, that is a major third spacing. So our spacings from the root to the third of the chord are a minor third, and our spacing from the third to the fifth are a major third. And when you have a chord with this spacing, it's a minor triad. And if we compare this chord to a major triad, we see that the distance between the root and the fifth stays the same. However, from the root to the third, in the minor triad, the third is a half step lower than it is in the major triad. And so in a minor triad, we refer to the third as the flat third or the minor third, which gives us root, flat third, fifth. And these two triads, the major and minor triad, form the basis for just about all the harmony that one will ever come across. And if we continued at the major scale, doing the same thing, we get a minor triad off of the E, major triad off of the F, major triad off of the G, minor triad off of the A, and then off of the B, something interesting happens. For this B triad, the notes are B, D, and F. From B to D, that's a minor third spacing, and from D to F, that's also a minor third spacing, which is unlike anything else we've come across so far. So this chord has a root, a flat third, but now it also has a flat fifth. And when you come across a chord with these notes, this spacing, that's called a diminished triad. Diminished triads aren't nearly as common as the major and minor chords, but it is worth acknowledging their existence. And so now we have all the different triads available to us in the key of C. And much like how you can make a melody picking out notes and mixing and matching them from this scale, you can create a chord progression by mixing and matching these chords. C, A minor, E minor, F, D minor, G, C. And you might be thinking, well, wait a second, Sammy G, I was watching your fingers there and you weren't just playing 3 notes for those chords. What's going on? So assuming that you're keeping the root note as the lowest note in your chord, you can take some liberties with the other notes. You can double them, move them up an octave, and it doesn't really affect the character of the chord. Like take the open C campfire chord, for example. We have a C, E, and a G. That's our bass triad, but then we also have another C here, and then we have another G. Or check out the C bar chord. With this, we have a C, G, C. Now we get an E. There's the G, and another C. We still only have C's, E's, and G's. The C is the lowest, but the other notes kind of get flipped around and duplicated. And so like the spacings of the major scale are universal for all major scales, the series of chords that we use here applies to all major scales as well. In any major scale, the first chord will be major, the second chord will be minor, third minor, fourth major, fifth major, sixth minor, seventh diminished triad. And if we bring minor scales into the mix, well, we know that the notes between a relative major and its relative minor are the same set of notes. Well, the chords that we attach onto these notes stays the same. Let me show you what I mean. We know the chords in C major and all the chords in A minor stay the same. They're just a different order. So now you can take any key, you know which notes are available to you in it, you know why they're available to you, and you can start using those to build a melody. You also know what chords are available to make a chord progression, to make your harmony. You combine your melody with your harmony, set it to a rhythm, and you're making music. And right there, you have the core principles of understanding music. That first piece of the puzzle is laid out for you. You can speak the same language as everyone else who knows this stuff. And the more time you spend with music, the more you realize that all the stuff that we just looked at is merely the most common expectation. But it would be incredibly boring if everything just followed the expectation. Music often toes this fine line between expectation and surprise, and balancing both keeps us engaged. This is really just the beginning, but what I would encourage you to do is going forward, try to see your musical world through this theoretical lens that we've started to unravel today. Look at chord progressions, look at melodies, and ask yourself, do these make sense with what I've learned so far? If it does, great. If not, well, it's because there's always another puzzle on the horizon to solve. And the more puzzles you solve, the more you realize, the more of them there are out there. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is the foundation of music theory. If you're looking for a more in-depth look at this stuff, I've got a course on that. If you're looking for the next steps in music theory, I've got a course on that. I've got courses on soloing, rhythm guitar, and a bunch more. Now, I also do weekly lessons in the Samurai Guitar Dojo, and for Black Friday, if you sign up for that, you're gonna gain access to all my other courses as part of the monthly membership. It's only $7.50 a month. You can gain access using the link in the description. Until next time, thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves, look after each other, look after the planet. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.